Have you ever not slept for so long that you started hallucinating? What was your experience? Yeah, after 70 hours or so. It's pretty disorienting and rational thinking starts to get very slow. The hallucinations are not realistic, but are more like gaps in your vision that are shaped like things. Might see a silhouette at a distance or briefly around a corner. For me, the sleep afterwards isn't very quality either. I usually wake up feeling still. It feels like I am stressing in my sleep. Indeed. Especially with caffeine, which tends to mess with your system in unpleasant ways after so many hours awake. Yes. Caffeine dosed wake up but inhibits the tired bit of your brain. When you are seriously sleep deprived already, the results are unpleasant. I've had skin crawling, profuse sweating, bucket loads of anxiety. That is a very good description. I was reading and trying to put to words my experience gaps in vision shaped like things. Yet, I also saw a lot of light shifting. I went roughly 4 days on 5 hours sleep total. I could function fine, but I would just constantly hear things like people mumbling right next to me. Yeah, it's not like you see pink elephants on parade or anything. You think you hear people chatting behind you, or you see stuff moving just on the edge of your vision. Super creepy and unfun, but not particularly dramatic. Nothing that sounds super extreme, but when you're woken up every hour all night long for weeks and months on end, the effects add up. That's been my entire life with sleep apnea. I wake up at least 5 to 6 times every night. As a sleep tech, I'm sure, without a CPAP, you wake up many more times than that every hour. We don't even consider it sleep apnea for 5 times an hour. That's within normal range. Sleep apnea is no fun. I'm sorry. After a while I start to become seriously paranoid and I start hearing voices and things like that. It's not very fun. I have some serious issues with sleep, and sometimes it will get to the point where I will start seeing things out the corners of my eye that aren't actually happening, and I manage to scare the out of myself. Please get enough sleep, don't fall into the habit of staying up for days on end. The longer you stay up, the harder it is to fall asleep. Yes, I saw shadow creatures and I thought they were out to get me. Me too. I had been sleep deprived for weeks, 3 hours a night most nights, and hadn't slept the night before. I was out a walk with friends and we stopped for a bit, and then I started seeing the shadows move. Then they looked like a pile of bodies, and then I was convinced that they'd come drag me into the pit. Get some sleep, this experiment isn't worth it. Damn, that sounds bad. Yeah, it didn't help I saw the first boss on Kingdom Hearts. The real question is, did you beat it? I hadn't slept for about 72 hours when I went to the Doc gave me Ambien. I go home, get in bed and take one. A few minutes later, the floor was covered in water and the walls were melting. It was raining outside and the water on my windows was marching in formation. I've never known whether that was sleep deprivation or the effects of Ambien. I've never taken another. I was prescribed Ambien once. I took it and I could still wake up on it, but I started seeing the shadows in the corner of my room curling up and almost moving. It was freaky. I don't take Ambien anymore. Overseas on a deployment, started getting sleep deprived for a period of time. Started hallucinating the big date palm trees moving across the road like in The Lord of the Rings, when the trees walk. Memories tend to gather as a group too. Me and 2 other guys were on the post that saw the bite explosion, and all 3 of us had the exact same story to a T. Thing is, only one person was on post, and we rotated throughout the day. We have no idea whose memory it actually was, but the shock of the situation just kind of merged our recollections over the next day, and we couldn't figure out who was actually on post. Oh yeah, people calling for your name definitely happens to me all the time when I'm sleep deprived. I keep asking my family if they called for me multiple times, and they would look at me like I'm crazy. I personally do too, like there's a conversation just out of earshot. It's super weird, but I didn't realize that it's not necessarily normal to hear your partial dreams or the kinda daydreams you have as you're still conscious, but you're sorta asleep. I stayed up for 3 days straight when I was 17. On the 3rd day, I kept hearing people call my name, As if they wanted to ask me a question. It didn't help that I also thought it would be a good idea to go to school that day. Multiple times a day, I would bolt upright and look around to see who wanted to my attention, only to see my fellow students huddled over their work. It got worse as the day went. My friends were a little worried about how weird I was acting. I walked home after school, listening to my headphones as usual, but I still kept hearing someone call my name. The music made it worse. Whatever I was hearing was already kind of muffled, and having a song playing in my ears only seemed to obscure it more. When I finally got home, I told my mom I wasn't feeling well, went to my room and went straight to sleep at 4 in the afternoon. As nodded off, I heard that voice calling for me again, making me jerk out of my sleep. This repeated a couple times until I convinced myself that I already told my mom I was sick, and if she really needed me, she could come get me. I finally went to sleep and didn't wake until 2 a.m. to use the bathroom, and then went to sleep afterwards again until 9 a.m. the next day. I was an idiot.